You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hiya, folks. How's it going? I don't know if this is going to sound too weird or not. I'm in Nashville right now. It's my last day. But currently, I'm sitting in my truck because it's the only semi-quiet place I could find. So I got this rental truck, and I'm sitting in here recording these for your ears. Everywhere else had, like, music playing or cicadas. Like, there's crazy loud cicadas outside. I thought I could just step outside and maybe do it real quick. Definitely can't do it in the apartment we rented. We've got air conditioners running, and it's crazy loud. So, here you go with this spot. It is about Sinusoid. That's right, Sinusoid custom cables. They can make the cable of your dreams with their custom cable builder right on their website. No problem. You pick your connectors, you pick your cable brand, maybe you pick their Slate, maybe you pick Megami, maybe you pick something else. They've got it over there. TechFlex, no TechFlex, what color? They can make the cable of your dreams, and it has a 100-year warranty. Yes, a 100-year warranty. So unless you're going to be some sort of weird cyborg type person, the cable will last your lifetime. So go over to sinusoid.com, check out what some of the best folks in the guitar gear industry have to offer. Yes, they are some of the greatest and best and awesomest folks I have run into in this business. And there's a lot of good folks in this business, so you know that's impressive, to say the least. So go to sinusoid.com and get you some. We are also brought to you by the amazing people over at Gun Street Wiring Shop. I told you about that harness I put in my Les Paul? It sounds awesome still, and it was an easy install even for a buffoon like me. Sean and the team over there make a great product, and they offer awesome customer service, and it just looks cool. You get it in there and you're like, man, that's pretty. And who doesn't like pretty gear? Everyone likes pretty gear. I know you don't want to admit it. You want to say it's all about the tone, man, but you care. You care what it looks like. Everyone does. That's why you open up a pedal, start the guts for a little bit. This is the same thing. This is beautiful, beautiful guitar wiring made by hand in Bend, Oregon, and the process could not be easier. They're also getting into the Fender game. They've been aggressively in the Gibson camp for a while. Now they're starting to make stuff for Jazzmasters, Strats, you name it. They can do it for you. Call up, or, well, who calls anybody anymore? Let's be honest. Email Gun Street Wiring Shop, or go to their website, or contact them in some way, and they will fix you up with a awesome wiring harness for your guitar. You got scratchy pots you've had in there for years like I have. Get them upgraded. Get the whole mess just cleaned up and done the right way by Gun Street Wiring Shop. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ToneMob.com podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have Alex Lehneis of the band Glass Lungs. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited for this.
Well, I tell you what, I'm excited to talk to you. I've been following you on the old gram for a while, but I was listening to your album yesterday, and now I'm extra excited because I was really, really enjoying it. And forgive me, I'm really bad with remembering track names, but overall, I'm really digging the vibe. Is that new one out yet?
We have two singles. We have two singles out.
Mm-hmm.
One is called From the Wayside. The other is called Casting Stones.
Yes, that's one was really clicking with me.
Yeah, so we wanted to release, the, I guess, poppiest, catchiest one and the darkest, heaviest one at the same time. Kind of show, how broad of a spectrum we have with the album.
That's a good plan. When is the full release coming out?
Next Friday. I'm super stoked. Yeah.
Ooh, next Friday.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when this comes out. Give the date, because I'm not sure exactly when this is going to drop for the people that are
June 29th. Friday,
June 29th.
June 29th. Glass Lungs Impermanence. Very
nice, man. Very exciting. Very exciting. Is this your guys' first record, or what's the story of the band?
This is our first full length. Okay. We had a few demos out in the beginning, and now we decided it was time for full length. We got good feedback from the demos, so we're like, let's just do it. It looks good in the grand scheme of things to be like, we nailed down a full length, because so many bands are just putting out single after single after single. We were like, we really want something that we could just put out a whole bunch of songs, and maybe we'll do some singles after, but we want that in the books.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I mean, I'm not excuse me, I'm not a professional musician by any stretch of the imagination, but it was always a goal growing up to have an album for some reason. I don't know why, but it feels good when it's done, right?
Yeah, man. And the recording process was so much fun too. Like we stayed at the studio we recorded in, which was Voodoo, with Mike Watts and Frank. I'm gonna butcher this, but Midatar Itona. If he listens to this, he's gonna kill me. But yeah. They were great though, and we stayed there for, I think it was like 18 days or something.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we just lived there, and and then I think we went back for 5 more days to finish up some stuff. But yeah, it was so cool. Just the process was so cool, and like being able to like sit there and really like dial in every single tone, and just like messing with different guitars while you're doing it and different amps. Yeah. And just being there for that long a time, it's just like nothing's really like that. I've never, done something that big before.
Right. No, I can understand. I thought 5 days was a big deal for me. We weren't living there, but it was very, very close to where we live. So, but before we get to, because I do want to talk to you about the recording process, and kind of the reason that we got hooked up is because a lot of, your band's music, as we discussed the other day, is largely focused around not the music itself. Well, how did you say it? Like, it's just like very informed by the gear you use, basically.
Yeah. That's something that, we kind of focused on when we even started. I was in a lot of bands prior to this that toured and, whatever. And something that really got me into playing guitar in general was just the sound of it. It wasn't really like actually playing the guitar, which I think's weird for, most musicians. I just really like the sound of it. So I never went to guitar lessons. I pretty much learned how to play guitar from this band being like, "Hey, we need a guitar player," and I was like, "Cool, I'll do it. Just show me what I gotta do." So that was my first introduction to playing guitar. But what really got me hooked was the sound. So for a while, I played in bands and whatever, and I just kept going through gear, and all the guys in the band would make fun of me and be like, "Oh, you got another amp? You got another amp? Really?" And yep, I got another amp. Like, I'm just trying. I got this sound in my head. I'm trying to figure it out. And And then I started playing with other guys after I had really found what I was looking for. And I was like, yo, you really need to try this out. You need to try that out. You should definitely get something like this. And they just weren't into it. Yeah. So I don't know. So when I started Glass Lungs, I was like, I really want to do like a gear-based band, and I'm not going to be pushy on everyone because I know that never works out for me. But I would like slowly show everybody like, hey, check this out, check that out, and one of the first people in the band that was really like, like wow was Bill. He started off playing bass in the band, later moved to guitar, but I remember, being at our practice space, and I was like, why do you have a noise gate on your bass guitar? And he's like, oh, there's so much feedback. And I unplugged his like pedals and just plugged him straight into his amp. And he was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah. He had like every single pedal on his chain was buffered, and just like this noisy thing, with like crappy cables in between it and whatever. And I'm not like a crazy true bypass guy. I have definitely have buffered pedals on my board, and I like my overdrive that's in the beginning of my board to be buffered. And yeah, so that's basically like how Glass Lungs started with Tone. And as we got, more members, we were kind of like, this is what we're doing. If you're into it, you're into it. If you're not into it, you're not into it. But this is it.
Right. So I find that kind of interesting because a lot of people, and myself, I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes the gear gets in the way of creating music at times.
Yeah.
Not all the time, and oftentimes it's the opposite. But I do know that it can be overwhelming, especially for people who aren't that interested in it. But I find it really intriguing that you started off with that in mind. Like we want to be a gear-based band, and I don't know if that's a very common thought process for most people.
Yeah, I don't think it is. One of the probably least, one of the people that is like least into gear had joined the band, and he's still in the band. He's our guitar player, Nick. Yeah, that dude will leave guitar strings on for a year if they haven't broken. He will play without his high E string and just change where he plays on the guitar, like just to make up for it. And it's like, oh man, come on! Like, here's a pack of strings. I'll give you it for free. Just please change these things. But over time, he got really into it. Like, I remember, like, probably last December, he just came to practice with like 4 new pedals, and I was like, yes, like, here we go. Yeah, and he's gotten really into it, which is cool. And now he's like he thinks about like what he needs to do, what he likes, what he doesn't like. And at first it was like, man, am I going to have to like buy you a tuner? You know?
Oh man. Like, I think I've said this before. I think the gear acquisition syndrome is extremely extremely contagious, and I don't generally see people go from I've seen a lot of people go from kind of being interested in gear to full-on gear nerds, but I've never seen anybody go from being a full-on gear nerd to the opposite, being like, I don't really care anymore. Like, yeah. I'm sure it's happened, but I've never seen it, ever. It's always the opposite.
Yeah, I think it's just contagious, man. Like, with me and Bill, the two of us are just like constantly switching stuff out. And like, I think that Nick seeing that and then also hearing the difference. And then also we'd play shows and you'd have like you'd have tons of kids coming up to us like, oh my God, your pedal boards. Like, who has that many pedals? These things are crazy. I think anybody likes, some sort of the attention from it. So I think all of us, we just like more and more got into it. And then after a while, it's like, oh man, we're like, $15,000 deep into our gear right now.
It's a weird thing though, right? It's like there's a collectability like angle of it. There's the actual sounds, and it's just fun. Like,
Oh, it's so much fun. Yeah.
it's a good time.
Yeah, and then once you start going down the rabbit hole, like you really go down the rabbit hole. You and I were talking the other day about like uh about some companies that are higher up on, the boutique totem pole, I guess you could say. So I think it first starts with, people are really into like at least gear. I'm talking gear nerds. I'm not talking, the regular guy that's like, oh, I want a better pedal. Um, but I
You're
feel like
talking to
that
the
first,
listeners of this podcast, basically.
yeah, yeah. I think people start off with just like, hey, I really want a JHS pedal or a Walrus Audio pedal, and those are the introductions to, I think boutique pedals. But as you go down the totem pole and you're like on these gear pages, you're like, oh man, and you get into like these real boutique pedals, and that's what my pedal board kind of consists of at at this moment, where you're getting things like 80 tape and Ezianaka and things like that, and just these weird pedals. Like some of them, you're like, oh man, how am I going to even fit like this sound into a song? And that's kind of where we're at now. We just have these crazy pedals, and we're just like, all right, well, the stuff we're going to write later is just going to, I guess, be more weird.
So do you write around a specific pedal? Will you go, this thing makes this weird sound when I do this, and we're gonna make a song out of that weird sound somehow? Is it intentional like that?
It's actually pretty funny. I I write like that. I'm like, all right, let me see how this works. How can I turn this into something musical? Whereas our guitar player, Nick, is more the opposite. He writes a riff and he's like, okay, which one of my pedals will fit over this? So I think doing that, or both of us doing that differently, almost opens up more of a dynamic with the music.
Yeah, I think having different approaches is what makes a band cool. That's what makes it a band and a group effort, and actually a collaborative thing. Because I write stuff all the time by myself that wouldn't really be useful in the context of my band. A lot of looping, weird, ambient stuff, and
Yeah.
in the context of doing music with the guys, it doesn't really make any. It wouldn't make any sense, and so I actually have to. And it's been a long time since I've done this, and I should really get back into it more. Or I actually don't. I'll just pick like a good drive or a good fuzz, or even, I know this is going to sound weird for all listeners, sometimes I play clean, and and then and just try to write a basic kind of song, because all the songs that I wrote that actually were anything worth listening to were actually a lot more stripped down and easy that versus my super weird out there stuff. The weird out there stuff that I do generally doesn't turn out. I like it okay, but I don't sit back and listen to it and go, yeah, good job, Blake. That was great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what's hard for us, and it wasn't in the beginning because Bill was, like I had said earlier, he was originally playing bass. And we found that he was using so many bass effects that we were like, we've completely lost the low end. Like, like, what do we do now that there's no drive in the band? So Bill had moved to guitar, and Jay came into the band and started playing bass for us. And then we were like, okay, how do we write 3 guitar parts? And it was definitely difficult for a while, because now we had, like you were saying, we kind of had to strip down all of our parts for everybody to fit. But it ended up working out really well on the record. Frank was so good at like figuring stuff out, figuring out how to get us each in there. He was also like, guys, this part's just not going to be on here. And we're like, oh, damn it, And we're like, but what are we going to do live if somebody doesn't have a part? And he's like, I don't really care. This is just
Right.
is just what's going to happen on the record. Yeah, basically. But, since then, like, we've been writing more, like, consciously of, having 3 guitar players. So I definitely know what it's like to have to strip some stuff down to get things to sound normal.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of times where we had 3 guitar or have 3 guitar players too, all gear nerds, and so what this is reaching back quite a while. But what we would have to do is like, okay, what are you using on this track? You're gonna use a Les Paul. Okay, I'm gonna use a Telecaster then. Because the guitar is a mid-range voice instrument for the most part, and if you got 3 of them playing, the same chord progression, for example, you got to figure out like ways to make them stand out for each other, or else somebody's not going to play, basically, which is fine if that's what the song requires. But you really do got to be conscious of that. And one of the things that was eye-opening for me was bad tone. I used to talk about this a lot, but like sometimes bad tone is the right tone. Like you hear it on its own, and it's this shrill, ear-piercing, like terrible sounding guitar, and then you sit it in the mix, and it's like, oh, that's what that needed. Like, weird.
Yeah.
No one ever thinks that, because when you're playing by yourself, you just want it full and big and as beautiful and rich as it can be. And then you'll drop that in the mix, and it's like, where'd it go? It's gone.
Yep.
It's the Big Muff effect to some degree.
Yeah, and some things on recording just don't sound as good as they do in a live setting as well. Bill played a Bad Cat, and I was always jealous of his live tone. And I was like, man, it's so like thick and like it's still bright. And when we went into the studio, we were just like, why is this thing not tracking good? Like, it just doesn't sound good. I've definitely heard other bands, using Bad Cats in the studio and they sound great, but for whatever reason, with the other guitar tracks, it just wasn't meshing. So we ended up only using the Bad Cat for maybe 2 songs or parts in 2 songs. And the same thing happened with Jay's bass. Jay has like this awesome, like, Varellin preamp, and he uses a Fryette power amp. But then in the studio, it just wasn't sounding good. He plays really dirty live, like really dirty. And we ended up using this EBS Fafner amp, and it sounded incredible. I was really happy with a lot of the bass tones we got on the album, and that's just kind of like what you're saying, to some degree. That some things need like a different tone to just come across properly, or some things need a worse tone to come across properly.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing, like you're talking about the Bad Cat, and I was having a flashback to a few episodes back, had Tom from MXPX on talking about gear and stuff, and he mentioned that there was this vintage Marshall that he plugged into a studio years ago, and he said it was like the absolute best sound he's ever heard, standing in the room playing with it, but they couldn't get it to record right, which is so weird to think about until you've actually had that experience. It's bizarre when you're like, but I'm listening to it and it sounds phenomenal, but through these speakers and It's not working. Why isn't it working? It should work. It's a bizarre thing that like most non-musician people look at us like we're insane when we talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how to explain that either, man. It's crazy. But I don't know if you know. I'm like blanking on his name right now. He's the singer of the Deer Hunter.
Oh, okay. Okay, I know the band, but
and
I don't know the members.
yeah, so the singer of the Deer Hunter has his own guitar company called Cave and Canary.
Oh, I didn't know that was his. I love those.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're super sick. I think the guys from Jennings are making part of them.
Mm-hmm.
So in the studio, Mike Watts has a baritone one there. So we were like, oh man, we need to find a place to use this on the record. So we chose one of the songs on the record. It's called Firewalker. And it sounded so awesome. It was so perfect. At the same time, Frank was saying to us, every single one of you are switching between who plays rhythm, who plays like ambient textures, who's playing leads. And he's like, I really suggest to you guys that you figure out who's best at which part. Because it'll be a hell of a lot easier to record. It'll be a hell of a lot easier to dial in your tones and to figure out what pedals are better on your boards, because like every single one of you has like the same pedals. He's like, you have more of can have more of like an expansive sound if you guys each figured it out. So we were like, oh, that's real interesting. So I would say, honestly, like 2 days later, we figured out who would play what, and we were like, Bill, you should definitely play baritone. And he thought about it for about a day, and I think like within that week he had sold his guitars and bought a baritone. We ended up going back to the studio, like I said, for those 5 days, and we put baritone on like 3 more songs.
Oh man,
yeah.
I'm just recently got into the baritone world, and I'm loving it. I've been talking about it a decent amount lately, but I got this millimetric baritone that I just love it so much. I'm though actually ironically parked right in front of it, staring at it while I'm recording this, and I'm just kind of want to play it, like reach out. And would that be weird if I did that? I don't know.
No, you can do that if you want to give us a little background music.
Yeah, sure. That's just what everybody wants me to do. I don't know if you've seen those. I think Florian is an artist. He makes these up in Canada, and they're crazy looking, but not with and totally like non-traditional in a lot of ways. Very modern aesthetic, but yet somehow not dumb. Like some people do that, and I'm like, that doesn't look like a guitar anymore. It just looks like some sort of art project with strings on it. And this looks like a beautiful guitar still. So
it's funny you say it's from Canada, because I feel like all these great brands are coming out of there. Fairfield Circuitry, I believe, is from there. Empress is from there. I'm pretty sure Alexander and Chase Bliss from there. Am I correct with that?
No, those two are American. They're from the Midwest.
I'm an idiot.
But there are a lot of great Canadian companies. I mean, I'm obviously a big Solid Gold fan. We did that pedal.
Yeah,
pedal
Solid
together.
Gold too, man. They have that Apollo is great. I love the Apollo.
Oh man, it's so fun.
And Bill had just ordered a Gillard guitar. He's from Canada. Which is those guitars are so cool, man. He's like doing like classic shapes like Strats and offsets and Tellys, whatever. But he's doing them with fan frets.
Oh, interesting. I don't know if I've seen this.
Because most of the fan fret guitars are like metal guitars. but he's like opening it up to like, you know, guitar players that play with single coils and, you know, like that traditional look, which I think is super cool. And he's got some cool YouTube videos where he's like, I'm going to build a guitar in one day. And you see like him throughout the entire day, like trying to get this guitar done. It's really cool.
Wow, that sounds intense. I got to look that up. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's awesome. I love all these, like, you know, boutique guitar companies because, you know, it started with you know, boutique amps. It went to boutique pedals, and now like all the boutique guitar companies are, you know, making their way into like being real popular.
It's a cool thing. I have had this weird switch. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like mainstream companies. I you know, Fender and Gibson, Rickenbacker, all the like. I love all guitars. But yeah. When I'm looking at those types of guitars, if I'm really jonesing for one, I'll usually be looking for a vintage one or an older one most of the time. Not generally getting super hyped on the new models by the bigger brands, mostly because I feel like there's so many small guys doing more interesting things that I can, you know, pay the same amount or sometimes even less to and directly support them and get a really cool, you know, a really cool finished product that's unique. You know, I've wanted a Jazzmaster for ever and ever. I've wanted a vintage Jazzmaster, and there were some that I wanted so bad, but you know, I could not justify the price. Even though those are relatively affordable compared to an old Strat or something. Oh
yeah.
But I just was like, I can't drop that kind of money. And so just kind of scratch that itch. Last year I was in New York and I went over to Carmine Street and I asked him to like, well, could you make me one of these Bowery Pine Jazzmasters? Like, he doesn't make Jazzmasters normally. He has like his own spin. I'm just like, I want a very traditional Jazzmaster, please. And could you make it for me? And he's like, okay. So that's in process right now. And it's like way less than a vintage, you know, jazz would be. And it's made by, you know, this guy's been doing it for 50 years out of, you know, as he calls it, the bones of old New York. So like how much that's just as cool as it's, you know, so yeah. Like, I guess the point being is like, if I'm going to buy a new guitar, it's probably going to be from a smaller shop. Most likely for me at this point.
Yeah. You know, I feel like most people are just like, you know, if it's not a Fender or a Gibson or, you know, some mainstream name, it's not a good guitar, which is totally false. Like, there are some, you know, guitar companies out there that, you know, they're using like premium pots, premium like pickups, like they're spending time like handcrafting these things, and some of them are just like really great Luthers, you know, which right now I just ordered 2 guitars from John Parsons, who is he's a Luther in Tasmania. He's famous for the swooped F-hole. If you go check him out on Instagram, he's got a bunch of really cool photos. And he's building me 2 custom guitars right now. And I got to choose everything. Like, and when I say everything, I mean everything. I got to choose my fret size. I got to choose my fretboard radius. I got to choose the, like, profile of the back of the neck, where I did weird stuff like the neck goes from a V shape to a wizard shape.
Oh, crazy.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, who could I get that from? Who else would do that? You know, when you go to a guitar shop and you get, you know, your Fender or your Gibson, it's like, I love this guitar, but there's that one thing, that I don't like about it that I wish was on it, or, and, I'm going to say like most people don't really know what they like. They know they like single coils, they know they like soft tail, it's stuff like that. They might like a thicker neck, like things like that. But when you're so into like gear and things like that, it's like, all right, I know every single thing that I like, and I'm going to find someone who's going to do every single thing that I like. And John Parsons was so awesome to work with. He has so much patience too, because I'm like the worst person to work with. Um, yeah. I'm so particular with everything that I'm surprised he put up with me. But yeah, he was a really good sport about it, and I'm pretty sure it's like almost done. Like he showed me a picture of it the other day. The other one I haven't seen a picture of yet, but yeah, I should be getting that like within the month, and I can't wait to play them. And I have a good relationship with Josh from Righteous Sound Pickups, which that's how I found your podcast. I know you've done a podcast with him. Nicest dude in the world. He sent some pickups for me to John Parsons to put in the guitar. And Josh makes me, whatever I want, and gets on board with all my crazy ideas. Which is actually, now that I'm on that topic of pickups, Josh and I came up with a weird pickup design about a year ago. Called the Sweet Violet, which is a Strat pickup inside of a P90 enclosure, which I had a guitar, had a P90 in it, hated it, and I was like, hey man, can you make this? And he was like, yeah, that's a super cool idea, and just went for it. Like, other guys just gave me such a hard time, like, oh, you can't do this because of this, and Josh didn't even question me, man. I love that guy.
He is awesome. He was on the podcast, I don't know, quite a while back, but yeah, he's a real treat of a person. We met at the Tacoma Guitar Show a couple years ago and had him come on, and then he made me cry, and it was interesting. It was a good episode though. He makes great stuff, and I like his work a lot, and have got to play several guitars with different designs. I think he's got it. He's got his recipes dialed, I think, in my opinion. I like what he does.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. At this point, I think everyone in my band has a Righteous Sound pickup.
Nice.
Yeah, he was just super awesome about it. Yeah, my bass player Jay loves them. He absolutely loves them. My guitar player Nick has that Sweet Violet pickup in his neck, and he made a custom set for Bill's baritone, and it's just been like, it's a breeze working with that guy, and he's down for whatever. And I think, like, just like John Parsons guitars, like I said, I think that's like so important, like at least to me, in a company that, they're willing to work with you and, get you what you want. And it's not like, all right, I have to pick up the standard thing, and just deal with whatever I don't like about it,
So that I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, because I wanted to ask you if you've ever thought about or done this before, because you said you're really particular and you go over the custom builds with a fine-tooth comb. So I've done two different strategies with ordering guitars from builders, and they both have their merits. But so my Roni Oceana was like what you talked about. Like, we went over everything, like what color is it gonna be, how's it gonna, blah 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 blah. It was very specced out, and it turned out amazing. My millimetric, I took some advice from Adam, who runs Satellite Amps, and what he does when he orders custom guitars, and he has a lot of guitars, is he just tells the builder to go for it. And I kind of did that with my millimetric. I said, I want this body shape, approximately this scale length and baritone. Other than that, surprise me. And it was kind of cool because you get that vibe again of like a kid on Christmas Day. You don't know exactly what's gonna happen when you open the box, like, and as long as you trust the builder, I think that's like a really fun, really fun way to get a guitar. I'd never done that before until last year, and it was like, this is so exciting. I don't know what's gonna happen, and then it was brilliant. So.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that, for sure, because nobody like, you as a player don't know the guitar as well as the builder, and I think that's one of the things where they're like, this really works better with this, and kind of outside of gear, that works with other things too. When I was younger, I worked at a tattoo shop, and I found that all the tattoos that I just like let the artist do what he wanted came out way better, because they know like what fits together, and what will just like look better as an artist. Some of the times when you come up with stuff, it's like, that doesn't work too well together, whether it's a tattoo like that or if it's a guitar.
Yeah, that's true, and I've actually found kind of the same thing with getting graphic design work done. It's like I give whoever I'm working with like the vibe. Like I kind of go looking for this sort of vibe, like a vintage electronics vibe or whatever the case may be, and then they spit a bunch of stuff out. Like, I don't understand how some of these guys do it, because I'm so not good at that. They'll like the next day, like, oh, here's 5 different designs, and pretty much like, for me, once I see the one, like, oh, that's it. Like, sometimes it takes some tweaking here and there. Oh, try this, try that. But like, once I see the one, it's like, nope, there it is. That's like, I usually have a good feeling about it. It's never, the ones that have turned out really well are never like a head scratcher of, I don't know if this is going to work or not. It's there it is, like, you just know. And that's comes from the artist doing his thing, like you said.
Yeah. On the graphic design and artist thing, we in Glass Lungs use 2 artists. We use a guy named Scott Siskind, and we use a guy named Brian from Flesh and Bone Design. And when we were doing the album artwork for Impermanence, our upcoming full length, we were in the studio, and after being in the studio for like, honestly, just even 10 days, you start to go a little like crazy, get a little weird, especially being around the same people all day, not seeing light all day. So this is kind of longer than I expected it to be right now.
Do you need to go?
But okay. I'll keep going. No. I'm saying like what I'm.
Oh, it's all good. Just go for it.
Yeah. So we were coming up with what the artwork was going to be for the album. At first, we were going to go with like this occult type of vibe, but it kind of wasn't working out for us. So we were just like taking a step back. We were like, what kind of vibe do we get from like our music? And all of us were like, it's super spacey. It's like spacey ambient music. It's got some aggression to it. We actually call the genre type of our music aggressive ambient lullabies. And I feel like that's very accurate. If you listen to the stuff,
that fits well.
Yeah. And we're like, it's definitely spacey. And during the recording, our engineer Frank was like, there are so many sounds on this album that sounds like, some whales mating. And we were like, yeah, definitely. Because all those like echoes and like sliding delay parts. So when we went to Brian with a new idea, we were like, listen, man, we want some sort of whale floating around in space. And he's like, what kind of drugs are you guys on right now?
The best
Like,
kind.
you guys are totally nuts. Yeah, you guys are totally nuts. Like, honestly, that guy puts up with so much of our crap and like dumb ideas. And he just came out with I don't know if you've seen the album cover. We posted it a few times on Instagram, but it's a whale basically swimming around in space. And we felt like it just like went with the music perfectly. But that's another thing with like we were talking about earlier, graphic design. That's all we said to him, like space and a whale, and he's like, this is what he came up with, and there were no changes that we made at all. It was just that.
No, I seen it. It looks awesome. I love it, and I think it fits the vibe of your tunes like really, really well. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
I'm into it. I like, sci-fi and weird things like that. That is my jam for sure. And so I dig the vibe overall like quite a bit. So I think you guys are on the right track.
Oh man, thank you.
Wait, speaking of whale sounds, we talked about flanger a lot off the air. Yeah, that's what I use flanger to get whale sounds. Basically, that's I'm trying to.
Yeah, the Chase Bliss Spectre, like we talked about, is key for whale sounds. Most of his pedals like make some pretty whaley, chorusy sounds.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I used a lot of flanger on the album. Bill and Nick, they're both into flanger, but both of them have said, I have so much trouble like figuring out where to fit flanger. And for whatever reason, that comes so naturally for me, without making it sound like cheesy. Because I know like it's very easy to make flanger and chorus sound cheesy. I play my flanger at halftime. Like my entire board, as far as time-based pedals go, every single thing on there is connected to one tap tempo pedal, or actually two. I have one that taps, regular time to the click track, and I have another that taps halftime to the click track. And I run my flanger at halftime, and I get like really big whooshy sounds out of it that sounds like whales. Like
perfect.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So like personally, I don't use tap tempo very much except for delays. Even on pedals that have it, I don't generally use it for that. Like phaser and flanger, I don't use a ton of chorus. But phaser and flanger I like a lot, and I usually just kind of set them. And I kind of don't even, I know they are, but I don't view them as or think of them rather as time-based effects. What am I saying right now?
Yeah.
What language is that? I kind of think of them more as texture pieces. Like I like a good like slow phaser. There's nothing like a good slow phaser and some fuzz and a little reverb. Like,
yeah, I think when you run it like that, though, when you run it, kind of like a texture, it's not too much in the mix, you also put a little fuzz in there, some reverb. You don't notice that it's like real, it's going in like a time like wave, especially for people that run it like that, whereas in my band, we're like maxing out the mix.
Right, that's true.
So you really notice it when it's off. And the same goes for like tremolo and phaser, flanger. We use vibrato, all that stuff. Everything. I'm not going to say the mixes on all of them are totally maxed out, but like there's more effect in the mix than there is dry signal.
Right. Yeah, I guess trem is another one that I would say benefits from a good tap tempo. Yeah, just overall for whatever reason I don't use it very much, and that's probably because I'm not very good, and my timing's terrible. So maybe that's the issue as well. But so you mentioned a click track.
I mean,
and I need to anytime somebody can play with a click track, blows me away. Not that I don't have the ability to do it, but I hate it with every fiber of my being. Like it ruins playing for me when I have to play to a click, even though I understand why it's necessary and beneficial. I hate playing with a click. Is that ever been an issue for you?
On recording as well
Yes,
for you?
I hate it.
Okay. I understand why people hate it. Because it does take out some of that groove and vibe, especially between the drummer and bassist. There's nothing like a natural like pocket for those two. For Glass Lungs, there are 3 guitar players, and all of us are playing delay and tremolo and every other effect under the sun that's time based. And you can't not play to a click for our music. Our drummer plays to a click at band practice. He plays to a click at shows. He plays to a click on recording. And everything has to be super tight when it comes to playing with as many members as we do with everybody. There are times where Nick and I are both playing delay and like Bill is playing tremolo. Like, if those don't all sync up at the same time, it sounds like a complete mess.
That's true. That's true, but it doesn't drive you crazy though. Like, you're okay with oh, did you fall over? That didn't sound good.
No, I moved over. My dog's in the room and he's licking his feet. He keeps getting yeast infections in his feet, and then he licks them and makes them worse. So yeah, I have to stop him from licking his feet when he does it.
It sounded like you just fell out of a chair. Like, this guy doesn't play to a click, and he passed out. I'm glad you're okay.
All right. Yeah, I'm good.
But no, all that to say, I should play to one. I should get over it. But for some reason, that tick, 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 I'm like, I'm gonna kill someone. What is that sound? I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why it bothers me so much. It shouldn't, but it does. It bothers me enough that it makes my playing worse, and I don't know how to get over that.
Yeah, actually, Andy and I play in a little side project that we do every once in a while, and it's a cool little like folky thing. And the girl that sings in it, she plays acoustic guitar, but she's always played alone. And she has muscle memory between her guitar playing and her vocals and the timing that she played those in. So when they get like transcribed to a full band, she cannot play to the click. Like, she cannot follow the drums. She like forces the drums to follow to her, and it's become like the hardest thing to break for her.
So do you think it is like whatever you spent more time doing? Because I spend almost no time ever with a click, and then when I do have one, it annoys me. I don't have that same problem with a drummer. Like, a drum beat is fine. I love that.
Yeah.
In fact, I prefer playing along with a rhythm section, but it's specifically the click track itself, like, that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's good that I don't have to listen to it, and only my drummer does.
That I could do. That I could handle. It's when I personally have to play to it. No, I guess I should say that would be no problem.
Yeah.
But
when we record, I have to listen to it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get so much hate for this. Like, you're not a professional. What are you doing talking about click tracks like that? I'm like, well, I'm not a professional. I'm just a podcast.
No, I think there are definitely like grooves that you just cannot get with a click track. I'm 100% with you on that. As far as it being annoying, I mean, yeah, I get that it's annoying sound. But I think that, it's more about how tight it is, or how tight you need to be. And for us, I mean, with as many members as we have and all the effects going on, it's like, it can't happen without it.
Yeah, I feel that.
And especially with some of the riffs we have, I have to rely on the repeat of the delay. So like I'll do like I'll hit a note and cut it off, and the repeat comes, and then I hit the next note, cut it off, and the repeat comes, and so the riff continues going like that. Or I make a sliding note from one note to the other, and by the time the repeat comes, the next note to the next slide comes in at the same time as the repeat. And those two notes will like turn into like almost a like a chord together from the delay repeat. Because of course I have my mix like turned all the way up to 10. But yeah, like I rely on those repeats. So without a click and without being perfectly on time, like we can't do it. And me and Nick, we harmonize some of those.
Ooh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot, man. Like there's, when you're listening through the album, we got a review on the album like a couple weeks ago or something, and the guy was saying like when you sit with the album and you go through it a few times, like every time you listen to it, you pick up like new little things that you didn't hear the first time. Most people going through an album, the first thing they're hearing is just like the beat and like the vocals and things like that. But as you listen to the album, you start to pick up on stuff, and there are so many little things that are in the album that are so cool. Like as far as like, we have so many things that are call and response parts, so many parts that are harmonized delay repeat parts, and things like that.
That sounds like it's one of those situations. When you were saying about listening to things a few times, I feel like it's not something that I do as much anymore, but I want to get back to it. Like I remember, back in the good old days, when I was a kid, I'd get an album, I'd get it home, and I'd just kind of lay down and listen to it, and not do anything else. I wouldn't be driving, I wouldn't be, working or thinking about anything else. I would be listening to the album, and that's what I was doing. I didn't start doing that again until recently. We got a decent stereo setup and a good turntable finally. But I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of just listening, not worrying about doing anything, but I'm going to sit here and just listen to this stuff. And it's amazing how much you pick up in things that you've heard a million times, but you've heard them, but you didn't listen to them.
Yeah. That's the good thing about, like, that was the good thing about CDs. Like you had said back in the day, like, you got a CD and that was the only thing you listened to because it's your new CD, Whereas, like, we're in the time of, like, Spotify and everybody's got a playlist. So only your favorite songs are on that playlist. You're not listening to someone's full album. And that's why more and more bands are just putting out singles and small EPs and not full lengths anymore, because nobody is, paying attention enough to listen to your full length. People have such a short attention span.
Well, it's almost a weird sort of throwback to the old days in some ways, when that's what artists did. They would write albums, but they would really only care about a few of the songs. They'd write singles, and the rest were filler for some artists way back, in the day. And then it seems like, certain bands, there's, certain iconic records started becoming a big deal in and of themselves. And we had a shift to focus on the album, with a lot of artists. Like, we want the whole thing to be good and to tell a story. And it seems like with the, rise of the Spotify and the Apple Music and all that, we've slipped back into that in this weird way. Back to where the single matters more so than the record itself. And I find it refreshing when people still consider an album as an art piece. Not necessarily, like, not that each track shouldn't stand on its own, but you should be able to listen from front to back and have it take you on a journey of sorts. And I think we would all benefit from that way of thinking. Just slow down in general and enjoy the thing, you know?
Yeah, we were really conscious of that. The front, listening to it from the beginning to end, like, and taking you through that kind of journey. In the beginning of our album, there's kind of brighter, like catchier two songs, and then it gets dark. The album gets dark, and it comes down to like this really slow, dark song, and brings you back up to 2 or 3 energetic songs, and then it drops down again to like a super slow song with a huge ending. And that's kind of what we wanted. We didn't want it to be like, oh man, this is super slow, then super energetic, then super catchy. We wanted it to like vibe, just kind of like you write a song and, it's got like, segues to becoming, just like from chorus to verse, like you need to make it flow, So I think that was a big thing with writing our album or organizing the songs. As far as writing the album, we write super weird, and other people have asked us, like how we, write songs like that, because most bands, I feel like, they have like their guitar player that, writes some parts and then they come to practice with them. Whereas we have a rule that you can't do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
We would never get anything done if we had that.
We write. Everybody says that to us. Everyone says that to us. They're like, there's no way that wouldn't happen. It'd just be noise at practice. But I think the reason that we do that is because we don't get the same results. You kind of then have that one person's style, and then you're kind of writing over it, and it's like premeditated. So for us, we write at practice, from the beginning of the song to the end of the song, and our parts start to change as we play them. And we figure out things, and we'd be like, all right, well, that part's not working with my part. So we're going to have to like figure out better notes and things like that. Nobody ever learns someone else's part or plays the same part at the same time. And I think that's weird, but that's what works for us. And going back to songwriting, it's we don't ever finish a song that we're not going to use to record. So if we get up to the chorus and we're like, nope, we're not feeling this, it gets scrapped right there. If we make it to the end of the song, that's it. It's going to get recorded, and it's one of our songs, because we don't waste time with a song that we're not feeling going, forward from the first chorus.
So do you guys do your lyrics together as well? Because I don't know that I don't think I could do that.
Nope. We finish the song, and once the song is finished, Chad writes or puts his lyrics on top of it. And, Chad's like, the dude's got a lot to say for a guy that's super quiet and shy. We didn't realize like how emotional the album actually was until afterwards, until it was done. We're just like, oh, cool, he's writing some catchy stuff, this is cool. And not until later were we like, oh my God, there's like, this is a really emotional album. Like, he really touches upon things that, other people aren't really touching upon, from, current politics to like, death of people in his life to whatever. I think there's only one song on the album that's about like a girl type relationship, which, most people that's really all they're writing about.
Yeah, that's That's interesting. I wonder how many bands have kind of a similar dynamic with that, where you know the the distance between the lyrics and the music is very obvious to a lot of people, and like a lot of bands don't necessarily pay that much attention to sometimes what the lyricist is doing. And for me, that's like lyrics, they drive me crazy, like because I part of it is, at my old job I was force fed Bro Country all day long, which just has the dumbest lyrics of all time. And I'm a country music fan, so that made it even worse. So it's just like, this is horrible. And so I say that's, I'm kind of dancing around here, but the lyrics have always been really important to me. I was the guy that would crack open the book with his CD and like follow along. And I don't like it when they kind of don't matter, I guess, if that makes any sense. They don't always have to be serious. They don't always have to be genius, but I like that they matter to whoever has wrote them, and I think that you can usually tell just by hearing them and reading them.
I mean, when it comes to lyrics for me, and Chad's lyrics, specifically, as long as there's not a line that I just really hate, I'm fine with it. I think there's maybe like, I don't know, between words and just lines, there's maybe like 5 small changes I made on that record. And they were such simple, stupid things where I just didn't like I said, like a word, or I didn't like a phrase. And he's just like, all right. And he'd just like switch it out. And so it's really easy writing with him. Or, him writing and us liking what he did. So yeah, I don't have many issues with we don't run into many issues with the lyrics. That's what I'm trying to say.
Does he come up with the melodies at practice, or is it
sometimes sometimes he'll like hum a chorus melody or something like that, and we also base some like a good amount of stuff, at least now, around the lyrics. The current music video for From the Wayside has to do with the lyrics. They connect. It's kind of like, that was the one and only song that's kind of like I guess, the love kind of thing, the love story kind of lyrics. And it was more like there's like someone there out for you, kind of like, don't give up on it. So like in the music video, you see like this girl that, totally shouldn't be dating this guy. Like, they're from 2 different worlds, but it's like, you don't have to kind of force yourself to be with someone that's not right for you. And at the end of the music video, you see Chad, and he kind of like goes off with the girl. So we've been focusing more of that, of the lyrics to coincide with the music videos. When if you see our earlier music videos, it was just kind of like, all right, we just need something to put on there, and it was very minimal B-roll and like band shots. And then Andy and I actually came up with the storyline for the music video that will be coming out. It's not out yet. It's for our song Acquiesce, where it wasn't what Chad had intended for the lyrics to be about. But we found that, with anything, people take something different from the lyrics than someone else will take, especially when they're obscure, like the way that Chad writes. You could take something totally different from it than what, he was actually writing about. So Andy and I had felt that the lyrics were very, I guess, political and had something to do with what was currently going on, in the world at the time, with all these like, mass shootings and things like that. There's so much like going on right now that's just so crazy. And we felt, even though Chad didn't, directly want to, that wasn't what he was singing about. It's what Andy and I had taken from it, and we felt like it was something that the band had to say, had to be a part of. So, I mean, lyrics can work in that way as well.
It is a weird thing how when they're not direct or like very obvious telling a story of some sort, how much like you can be as a lyricist, you can kind of be misinterpreted a little bit in some ways, at least in your mind. But then again, it is up to the listener to decide what it means to them. So are you being misinterpreted, or did they just take what they needed out of it? It's it's like, no, I didn't mean it like that. But it's like, well, that's how you took it. It's almost it's a bizarre form of communication. It's a cool form of communication, but it's kind of weird, when you think about it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I believe that people should take, what they want from it. Because, sometimes it's like a healing thing, And what's wrong with that if, maybe you misinterpreted, but it helped you out in some way throughout your life?
No, I don't think it's wrong at all. I think that's what a beautiful thing about music is. It can be what each specific listener needs it to be. I think, and I think that has actually probably helped more people than what any artist might realize, to be honest. Like the amount of people that listen to somebody and they actually reach out and go, yeah, this just changed how I viewed things, pales in comparison to how many people actually heard it and did impact them, but they just didn't feel compelled to reach out. One thing that I've found very very interesting, and this is coming from a kind of a different angle versus an artistic one, but it does sort of correlate, is how many people actually are impacted or see or experience the thing that you put out versus how much you hear about it. Is kind of weird. I just know through doing some videos and some different marketing projects for companies that like peripherally they're more impactful than what the numbers say. Just because I have people like, hey, did you see this weird video that so-and-so put out? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of made that, Like, it's like, but like, I know you didn't comment on it type of thing. So it's like a really interesting, it's interesting how far things spread and you really don't even realize it. It's, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, especially if what they take from it is something personal, it's not always something that you want to, put out there for people to know that you took something from it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and nobody has to know as long as it was as it was beneficial to you,
Yeah,
I agree, and it's weird, and the same thing can be said about words. Like the difference between writing something down and having somebody read it versus hearing someone say it is amazing.
Yeah.
Like you would think that me and my friends hated each other if you just read everything we said to each other. But if you heard it, you're like, oh, they're horsing around, but if you read it, people would be like, oh my, did you hear what he called his best friend? Like it's a weird world. And I say that because this has been on my mind a lot, as a lot of people, is I've learned that some people just aren't good at interneting. If you know what I mean? Like,
that's me.
Is that you?
Honestly, no joke. Like we have a little like forum thread or whatever you want to call it on Facebook for our band, so that we can communicate with each other and everybody sees it, and because text message threads are annoying because they're constantly going off and things like that. So I can't tell you how many times I write something in that thread and people are like, oh, Alex, why are you being such a beep? You know?
Right? You're like, no.
Yeah. I was like, yo, you took that totally wrong. But that always happens to me. I sound like the worst person ever via like text or whatever. You know, I've had girlfriends that said the same thing, and it like I've gone through like stuff where it's like I have to like put some sort of emoji after everything I say so it doesn't come off
I
wrong.
actually don't think that's a bad idea. In fact, that's why they're invented. Because I think that some people they need to work on that. I mean, if this is how we as a people have chosen to communicate with each other, and by and large it is, I think people need to learn how to internet, because I've seen so many things go so sideways just because of a misinterpreted piece of text. Because you can't get tone or intention sometimes via a post. I think people need to, don't be afraid to use those emojis, people. Use them up so people know what's going on. Like, they're cheesy, they're dumb, whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as your significant other knows that you're not actually calling them dumb. You're just joking. Like, that can be very beneficial. Very beneficial.
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how we got there, but we did.
I don't either.
So there. Well,
yeah, let's talk about the year band. All right. No, we're back on. We're on
talking
emojis
about emojis.
Right now.
Sorry, it is what it is. It's a podcast that I am the host of. Therefore, it's gonna be random. It's just how it is.
Come on, if it was all about gear, and it'd get boring. You got to have this kind of band.
One thing we haven't talked about though is the other subject that's near and dear to my heart, and we're getting close to the end, so we better touch on this real quick, or else I will have failed as a host. So you live in New York. I know you're going to have a lot of opinions on this. What's your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
you went there.
It's a big deal.
All right. You want to know something that my band talks about all the time? Is that pizza is better on Long Island than it is in the city.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes. There's no such thing, really, as Brooklyn pizza anymore. I don't know what happened to that. I think that was a big thing a long time ago. There are a lot of pizza places that are popping up that they call them dollar slice pizza places. And New York has actually banned them from opening up anymore.
Oh, really? Is there so many?
Yes. There are still many, but the problem was that they were putting what's it called? Like very good historic pizza places out of business.
Oh, really? Weird. Because I would think that those would cater to two different people. Like, the guy who wants a dollar slice and the guy who wants to sit down and have a good pizza, I think, are two different situations. But
I think that New York is at such a fast pace. I have lived in Portland, like I had told you the other day. So I know the difference between the West Coast speed and the East Coast speed.
Yeah, you life. East Coast guys scare me how fast you move. I don't like it.
Yeah. As far when it comes to anything, it's like, hey, can you get this done? We expect that thing done within like seconds. So when we're going to lunch, we want something that's quick. And when it's just when we used to be going into the better pizza place. Now a lot of us are just like running and getting dollar slices, and I think that hurt the pizza. I'm going to call it a pizza community, the better pizza community. It hurt that. But there are two things that are better on Long Island than in the actual city, and that's pizza and Chinese food. And one thing that I'm going to touch upon with you is how bad West Coast Chinese food is. Do you know that?
Yeah, I don't know. I know. How am I going to say this? I know that most of the Chinese food over here is pretty not good, but there are a couple places that I know of that are pretty good. But it's still not. It's still not Chinese food. Like, I don't think it's still American Chinese food. You know what I mean? I don't. I don't know what
Yes.
real Chinese food tastes like. I know kind of like what real Japanese and real Vietnamese and some of the other Asian countries' food. Like, I know what legit places like that are, but I just still don't know what legit Chinese food is. I just know when people say Chinese, I picture American Chinese food, and you have to know. You can't just walk into a Chinese food place over here and expect glory. It's going to be probably bad. You have to know where you're going, and even then, from what I'm hearing, the East Coast spots are significantly better.
Yeah, when I lived in Portland, there were so many good restaurants, especially on Hawthorne and Division and all those spots. And just like the culinary community there, there are so many good spots.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But and you know what? As a New Yorker, I still like West Coast pizza. You guys still had some good spots. They actually opened up a sizzle pie here.
Oh, really?
And I know you guys are sizzle pie, and the vegan community here went nuts for it because they, had vegan slices. So I don't bash on West Coast pizza whatsoever. Is it the same as New York pizza? No, it's a different, it's a different thing. Like you don't go to the West Coast and expect New York pizza. You don't, go to New York and expect West Coast pizza. It's like the same thing. I don't think one is better than the other. Because pizza in Chicago is amazing too, and that's totally different. Like if you've ever gone to Chicago and had pizza, it's like a home-cooked meal from grandma. It's insane. So, I'd say, let me try and get back on track here.
It's pizza. We can talk about pizza all day. Please let me talk about pizza all day.
Yeah, I could. Yeah. So, I think Long Island pizza is better than some New York pizza. I think New York has to move their pizza so quickly that they care less about it. And whereas New York, they have time to make like a really good pie. So I'm all about Long Island pizza spots and Chinese food as well. Although there are definitely good spots in Chinatown, and if you're going to be out here for Fear the Riff, I think we're going to get together for some awesome Chinese food.
I'm going to need educated, I think. I feel like I'm fairly, as you said, you lived over here. We got a pretty diverse, we got a lot of different styles of food that are all really good here in Portland. And I think that Chinese is one we're lacking in. There's a couple good places out in the burbs where I actually live. That's actually where I live. I'm not in Portland proper, but
okay.
There's a handful of good places, but I feel like I need educated on the good Chinese food, so that'll be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, when I was there, right before I left, I found a really good Japanese spot that was on Division, closer to the river. And I loved it there. So good. There are tons of Thai food restaurants.
Oh yeah,
in Portland. Yeah, and I'd never had a bad one. Amazing. But I just didn't understand the Chinese food thing. I was like, what is with this?
I don't know. I can't even comment on it because I've never explored. When I go to other cities, I've never thought, I wonder how the Chinese food is here. That's never crossed my mind.
I feel like that isn't a thing. I feel like that isn't a thing people think. But yeah, Chinese food in New York is like a staple. You got to have good Chinese food. Of course, pizza is a staple. but I don't bash other cities' Chinese food. Maybe some like down south. They don't have that good of pizza. But it's the water. I'm told the way that the dough rises.
I've heard that, and I've actually heard of some West Coast pizzerias importing New York water, and water's a weird one, right? So we have really good drinking water in my neck of the woods. Like, you get it out of the tap, and I'm like, why do we even get bottled water? Like, it tastes so good, our tap water does. And like, I go down to California, and I'm like, well, I need bottled water. Like, what's wrong with your water? And so I'm always like, anywhere I go that I've never been, I'm always like, Like, my wife and I, like, people think we're weird, but we'll literally like go to taste the tap water and just out of curiosity. And New York, for some reason, even though I'd heard that about the water and the pizza and the bagels, all commingling, for some reason in my mind, like when I went to do the tap water test, as we call it, I was like, I bet this isn't going to be very good. Like, it's a big, huge city, I just thought, it's not going to be very good. And I was like, oh, Lynn, the water, it's delicious.
Yeah, you know why? People think that because, New York City isn't the cleanest city. Like, we can, which is whatever, but our drinking water comes from upstate.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not like in the city. So yeah, the reservoirs are upstate, and they have really great water up there. So we get really great water.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And Portland's the same way. Our waters comes from like Mount Hood, basically.
Yeah.
So, that all makes a lot of sense. I don't know what's wrong with California's water, though. You guys got to fix your water.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong.
The only thing I will bash on for other states is bagels. You did mention bagels. Bagels are so important to New Yorkers. I don't even think that all of us realize that, because we're always like, oh, the pizza. But bagels is like, it's not like it is like anywhere else. Like,
the bagels are, oh man, they were so good. I'm a big bagel fan. I don't talk about bagels as much as I should, but I really like them. Even a not great bagel is will scratch that itch, but man, a good bagel.
Oof, man.
I went to Essa Bagel a few times when I was there. I was staying in Midtown, so that was the closest one. And man, I was so happy. It was so good.
They're just so like fluffy, and because people from other states who haven't had them are like, what's so good about the bagel? And it's like, it's not like dense bread. It's like fluffy, almost like pastry like.
Yeah, it's definitely still a bagel. Like, I know what you mean, though. It's not the same thing. Fortunately, we do have Kenny and Zook's over here, which is extremely solid. Like, I don't know if you got to try it while you were here, but I think you would approve.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right.
It's very, very comparable. Not quite the same, but it's really good. Like, I think you'd be a fan. Can you point me to another bagel place, since we're talking about bagels? I know about Essa. Planning on hitting Russ and Daughters next time, but where should I go for a bagel here in a month or two?
Let me think. There's this spot, okay? It's in Brooklyn. So where I live in Brooklyn is only, let me think, 3 subway stops from the L train, which is in Union Square. So like, people think, oh, I got to go to Brooklyn. It's just like you having to go on a few subway stops, like upwards in Manhattan. It's not far.
No, it's not.
This is a small city. You were in Brooklyn,
well, no,
right?
it's not a small city.
Well, no, it's a big city, but the island is not that big.
Mm-hmm.
The island of Manhattan is not big. To get anywhere is not a far ride. So everything's
Well,
very close.
Not to derail this too much, but I remember I was sitting there. We don't have very many delivery options here, but the ones we do have, they'll come to you from a good distance. Actually, one of the decent Chinese food places will drive a stupid distance to deliver. But I don't know if it's decent. Well, one that I find acceptable, I should say.
Yeah.
But I remember like, it was kind of late, and I didn't really feel like leaving to get some food, but I was hungry, and so I was like just Googling, and I was like, oh, here's this pizza place. It's only 2 miles away, and they say they deliver. I bet they'll bring me some pizza. And they were like, nope, that's way too far. I'm like, wait, what is? Hold on, what's going on? Is that a normal
was in
thing?
Portland, or that was in
New York?
Oh, in New York. So okay,
Yeah.
So in New York, each place only delivers to like a certain neighborhood. They don't go past that because they're so busy. So, but the thing is, you can get the one closer to you to deliver anywhere. We have, I don't know if you guys have Seamless there or Grubhub.
Yes. Yeah, we don't use it as much, and Uber Eats as well.
Yeah, see, we live on that in New York. So every single restaurant delivers Japanese food, Indian food. You can get a steak delivered to your apartment. It doesn't matter, for us,
that sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, so for like if the place is kind of far, like they're not going to deliver because they have like 20 or 30 other people like calling for delivery, that they're like, your $8 isn't worth like us going there.
Right.
So
this is true. I just found it weird because I'm used to like a 10-mile radius, and this was like 2, and they're like, nope, sorry, no can do. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yep, exactly.
I guess I'll starve to death then. But
the other thing that's great about New York is that everything is open till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., which I noticed isn't the same in other cities. That's why I think they call us the city that doesn't sleep.
I would believe that. I also, I guess this is turning into the New York City segment of the podcast. I do like New York City quite a bit. But it was a shock for me. I'm a West Coaster, like hardcore. And I'd been to other big cities. I'd been to London and I'd been to some other, major cities, but I'd never had such a shock of like, everyone's so angry and in such a hurry. Settle down. But then I realized, so for instance, I don't know where we're going with this, but
it's
happening.
Fine. Let's do it.
I was walking to get bagels, and I seen these guys in the distance, and I was like, oh man, am I walking into like a fight? Like I was like, oh boy, this looks like it's gonna get ugly. And so I was like trying to look how I could get across the street, and like I don't want involved in this. And these two guys are yelling and screaming at each other, and I finally get close enough to them, and they're yelling and screaming at each other, but they are happy as can be. Yeah, they were like, yeah, dude, like they were like screaming like in a way that appeared angry from a distance, but once you got up close, they were having a great time. They were just talking about what happened the other night, like at their buddy's place. I was like, it was so weird. I've never seen people appear angry but be happy. It was weird.
New Yorkers in general are loud people. Like
it's a loud city.
Yeah, we can't keep our voice down. We're just loud talkers, and we're very excited to have our voice be heard. So yeah, that is definitely something about us being like loud and whatever and rowdy and whatever like that. And as far as being like, I like the reason we come off as, I guess, mean is because we have a lot more people around us all the time. I'm sure in Brooklyn you saw like how compact it is with like, apartments. Um, and just like we get on the subway every morning and we're like sardines in there, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, and everybody's got their headphones on, we're like, that's like daily life for us. So we don't really talk to one another. The only people that talk to us is someone like from another city that's like trying to get directions or something, you know? Um, Whereas like when I was in Portland, everyone was very friendly and like you could start up a conversation with someone like on the street, and that at first was very weird for my wife and I. We're like, wait, why are they talking to us? Uh, like we're not used to that. And I think it's just because we're just like a way faster pace. So when we get like slowed down by like a random person we don't know, it's weird. I guess.
Yeah, and that's definitely me. And I have to learn that like most people don't like to talk as much as I do, and have conversations. And like that's basically what I do for a living now is have conversations, which is fantastic. But it's something my wife had to point out to me like early on in our marriage, and I still struggle with it because I'm a buffoon. But like, like she's like, that person doesn't want to talk to you. I'm like, oh, you're right. I just became that guy, and like I noticed, like I like to sauna. It's a thing that I like to do. It relaxes me. But like, when people are in there, like when I'm by myself, it's fine. And when people are in there, it's fine if I can talk to them. But I hate it when people come in and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, what's up? And then you can tell they don't want to talk. And I'm like, oh man, I got to sit in here in silence with this dude and just stare at him. Like, what am I like, what I mean? Like, but sometimes I'm lucky and there's like an old guy in there that'll want to have a conversation. And I'm like, sweet, somebody to talk to.
It's funny. I'm like the total opposite.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah?
Yeah. Me and my wife are total introverts, man. I can talk to people if it's like a one-on-one conversation. If I have to go to like an event or something where there's a lot of people, I need to get out of there. Like I can't wait to leave. And I avoid conversation. I can't stand it. I don't know what it is. I know that they're going to talk to me about something I don't care about, and I'm going to have to fake being nice. I just like have to constantly fake it. But when I talk to someone one-on-one that I have common interest with, like I have stuff to say, and I'm willing to have that conversation. But for like real extroverts, like, the people that like need to be heard, and like have to be the loudest person in the room, like I can't be around them. Like, you said you're a talkative person, but like you have something interesting to say. I can talk to you. I can have a conversation with you. But most people that like to talk don't like to listen.
I think that is something that's a little bit different about me, and I definitely have been guilty in the past of trying to be the guy that has the next thing to say, which I hate. I hate that that's a thing that I do, and I really, really work on it. Because it's stupid. Why? I'm not that important. Why would I be that way? It's dumb, and I don't like it. But I actually am genuinely interested in people and like different perspectives on things. And because I find it very fascinating, and I find that a lot of growth comes from hearing other people's perspectives, and just being able to recognize that this person's experiences has informed them that this is the way this is at this point, and nobody views things the same way, even if you are a very similar type of person. And I feel like just being more open to listening to people's, viewpoints, whether I like them or not, is actually been really helpful for me to just understand, how my reality is not your reality. Even though we have similar interests in things, like you view things through a different lens, and I think being able to appreciate and respect that has come from actually kind of doing this, like talking to so many different people, not just on the podcast, but the podcast has definitely helped, because it's just you get a different feel, and you just realize that everyone's just trying to do their best, and so everybody needs to stop being so angry and divisive.
Yeah,
everyone's just trying. They're trying hard,
Yeah, I mean, that goes for like life in general, and it also goes like for like gear stuff. Like we had, the stuff we were talking about earlier in the podcast.
Oh, I forgot about that. What's this gear you speak?
Yeah, gear. Like, my band members, like I got them into gear, and like being like pretty much total nuts. And now at this point, they have their own opinions on this stuff. It's like, even though, I was the one that brought them in and showed them all the things I like, they've come up with the things they like now. And of course I'm like, ugh, whatever. Ugh. But I think that goes the same way with like even your family, like they raised you on certain, like, I guess things that they thought were, not, I guess what they thought were the right way or whatever. But as you get older, you get your own opinions on those things too. And now I'm seeing my little gear children grow.
Gear children. Oh, they're all grown up. They're all grown up and finding a fuzz pedal of their own. It's just so adorable. I couldn't ask for anything better. Well, we've been going at this for a while. I know you had somewhere to be. Do you want to use these last couple minutes to plug where they can find yourself, your band, or...
Sure.
This is your moment to have a billboard for anything you might want to say.
All right, cool. Yeah, you can find basically all of our stuff. Everything is at Glass Lungs Music, whether it's Facebook, Instagram. We barely use Twitter, but we need to get on that. Same thing with our email. If you want to email us, it's glasslungsmusic@gmail.com. Like, we welcome people, especially promoters, to hit us up. We're going to be trying to tour this fall. We have a few things booked up, but definitely East Coast people. If you're a promoter or know a promoter, it would be great, greatly appreciated to just hit us up for things like that. Our album comes out. Man, I'm saying a lot and like throughout this entire podcast.
Story of my life,
like,
dude.
Myself.
Yeah, I know.
It's crazy. So you can. Our album comes out next Friday, which is the 29th. And we're really excited about it. We have on our website, we have a merch store that we just set up. You can get bundle packages there. You could just order a CD, you could just order a shirt, or just order a poster. We have posters, which came out really, really cool, that I'm excited about. And that's mostly it, We're a bunch of dudes just trying to make some cool music.
Right on, man. Well, thank you for coming on the show. It was a very, very good time talking to you. And also, I should plug that we'll both be at Fear the Riff, so we'll be there wandering around in Greenpoint. And if you guys are down there, holler at both of us. We'll probably be talking about Chinese food.
Or bring us some Chinese food.
Ooh, even better.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
All right, no problem.
All right, everybody. For Alex, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. I had a fantastic time talking to Alex from Glass Lungs. That was one of those episodes where, after we were done recording, we continued to chat for a long time and probably should have recorded that as well. But we didn't. But he's down to come back on at some point, so we'll do that and we'll make that happen. I'm also still sitting in that truck in Nashville, in case you were wondering why it sounds this way. But here I am. Otherwise, you'd be hearing a lot of very large insects right now, because if I just open this door, it sounds like sounds like we're being attacked by aliens. What else do we need to talk about? We need to talk about, if you need some extra content, there's the Tone Mob Patreon. And a lot of that is Jess and I sitting around shooting the breeze about various subjects in the Shred Shed, my good friend Justin Porter. So if you go to the Tone Mob Patreon, tonemob.com/Patreon, you can check out the rather interesting levels of rewards we have over there. If it's for you, you can sign up, and at whatever level, tickles your fancy, and you'll help support the show, help it keep going, and also get a whole bunch of extra content and some other random things. We'll just leave it at that. So go to tonemob.com/Patreon to check that out. And for the Patreon subscribers, you're going to get a double whammy this week. Because I had some technical difficulties with my wonderful, wonderful computer right as I was leaving for Nashville. So you're going to get a double whammy coming up this week. So you're going to have approximately, including this episode, 3.5 hours of Tone Mob content. So go to patreon.com/ToneMob to check that out. And as always, feel free to hit me up on any of the socials, email me at info@tonemob.com, etc., etc. I'm around if you need anything, and you need any help, need any just whatever. I'm around. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next week. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/Stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/Stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.